So why search? Why now? In ancient times, the oracle of Delphi, Pythia, gathered people around her to answer their questions about the future. Maybe some of you are familiar with the oracle of Delphi. They have different visions of what that means. Well, now we just Google it, right?
Right.
For real. In fact, I heard John Bahuniak talk about Googling it as a verb, but then talking about Yahoo. So proving the fact that the brand is stronger than the name itself, Google. What's interesting about Google is they were included in the June 2006 version of the Oxford Dictionary. And if you're familiar with the Oxford English Dictionary, it's sort of the dictionary of dictionaries. So even though Google as a verb had been included in prior versions of dictionaries, being included in the Oxford Dictionary in 2006 was a big deal. Why do I equate search with Google? Because for people that were looking at the title of my speech is why search, why now, how did Google come into the mix? But if we look at the data, the worldwide data in terms of market share, Google enjoys a 78% share of the global market, which includes search engines from countries like China. So you can imagine that 78%, over 3/4 of the market share in search, which has been consistent for the last 7 years, you can understand why people might equate searching with Google. If we look at the trends for how many searches are conducted each year, back in 2006 when it made it to the Oxford Dictionary, Google or search in general had a couple 100 million searches, sounds like a couple 100 billion searches, which sounds like a lot until you look at the 2012 year-end data, which was 1.2 trillion, which is hard to even get your arms around. If you unravel that by 365 days, that's 3.5 billion searches every single day, which is roughly half a search for every man, woman, and child on Earth. So when you think about those kind of numbers, and I guess let me just do a quick poll. How many people did a Google search today? Case in point. How many people did multiple Google searches today? So you guys get it. What I'm going to talk about briefly is what I call the path to purchase. So how does search fit into how we run our everyday lives? And then I'm going to end with a real case study that should fit into this context. But the path to purchase starts with awareness. We have to know there's a need. We have to be aware of a product or service before we can then move on to the next step, which is consideration. So once we know there's a need and there's products out there that meet that need or services, we start considering things. Then beyond that, we move into what's called intent. We know what we want. We're not sure exactly what we're going to buy, but we know we want something. And then the final part of the path to purchase is the decision. We get out the credit card and we buy something. Along the way, there's a lot of different touch points. And in fact, marketers or people that studied marketing in college probably have heard the statistics. 7 to 20 interactions with a brand is the typical number of interactions before we actually buy something or we trust a brand enough to give them money. So there's a bunch of different channels, especially online. So how does it all fit together in terms of the different channels? Well, when we think about awareness, believe it or not, awareness typically starts online when we see those display advertising, which many of us think we filter out, and maybe consciously we do, but in our subconscious, wow, that looks really delicious. A picture of food or a fashion picture, you say, wow, I could picture myself or my significant other in that particular outfit. So it starts with display, and then it moves on to social. So we start in awareness, we see a display ad, and then we start considering things. And when we do that, we tend to bounce things off our social networks, our friends. We look for recommendations based on products and services that they've used. And so social comes into play. We talked about Facebook last meeting. Those kinds of things. Could be LinkedIn, it could be other social networks, Google+. Then we start to get to intent. So as we're in our consideration phase, we may give our email address to one or more companies in exchange for additional information, whether it's pricing. We give them the right to market to us, they give us something of value, and we're in the email part of the purchase journey. Well, then finally, and this is where we connect the dots literally, and this is based on real data, what happens is, and if we think of our own purchase experiences, by the time we get to buying something, we're on Google, perhaps, or some other search engine, and we're looking for Domino's Pizza Express Delivery, or discounted Nike sneakers, or whatever it is that we're looking for, but we're on search and we're now at the decision point. So if you're a business, if you're advertising, you can't really think of a better medium than search. Social we talked about last time, and it's interesting and it is important and valuable, but by the time somebody's searching on Google, they're gonna buy. They're definitely primed to buy. So very quickly, how did I find this club in 3 clicks? Well, I started at Google, believe it or not. It's a true story, and I'm guessing by a show of hands, how many people found this club through Google in some way or another? Again, so validation. And Google's pretty cool. They not only give me Toastmasters when I put in Toastmasters as the first result, they actually give me these site links. So I'm interested in finding a club, so I click on the Find a Club site link. I didn't have to go to the site first and find that page. It brought it right to me. I clicked it. On the second click, I'm on the Toastmasters.org website, and they have this handy little Find a Club button here. You put in your zip code and you say, I'm willing to travel, in my case, 10 miles. Show me all the clubs in the area. So I click on the third click. I'm actually looking at relevant data with clubs. Are they open? What's the contact information if I want to get more information, right, Ed? That's probably how you got my phone number. And I can see the maps, the times they meet, whether or not they're an open or closed club. By the fourth click, I'm actually meeting members. So I can see our VP of Membership, Howard. I haven't even picked up the phone to call anybody. I haven't done anything. In the course of 2 minutes and a few clicks, I'm looking at the club and I'm evaluating the club based on a search. So I will leave you with this question. Really, that sums up everything. The question is, how will your customers, members, donors find you on their path to purchase?